Hobbyness. My name is Tam, and I am joined by my lovely co-host, Erin Shimone. Happy New Year, Erin!
Happy New Year. So happy to be back again.
Yes.
2025. Looking exciting.
It's our first recording session in the new year, which will mark our first official full year, because I plan to take this to the whole year. I hope you are too. But I thought there'd be like nothing better to talk about today than like how you can really look at resolutions as an opportunity to create like a new year, right? Like I made this up like it's a genius idea. Somebody invented it like trillions of years ago, and I'm like, no, guys, this is a totally new concept.
But I think instead of resolutions, we're thinking about more of intentions, right?
Yes.
Intentions for the year, because I think resolutions are out, intentions are in.
Yes. Oh, I like that. I want the old, I want the new. I want intentions. So have you thought of a New Year's resolution?
So not really. I mean, like and I feel like a lot of people feel this way, is that resolutions don't really work, you know, and so I've never been much into that. So, but definitely thinking about intentions for the year and how, how I want to feel or what I want to do with my things this year. Yeah.
So you and I were kind of talking about this the other day, because we were like, again, you were saying like resolutions just don't really make sense.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that's bringing my own personal like reference in there. I kind of talked about this a little bit in our French episode, which is like for like 10 years in a row, I've been like, I'm going to learn French. And then here I am like still trying to learn French. Yeah. But this year I felt like I was making progress with it, because I looked at it with more intention than I did with resolution. So I really thought that maybe on this episode we could kind of talk about, I'll say new year, new you kind of thing, but like focusing on that intention way. And I kind of did. I know when you and I were originally talking about it, we were like, well, what does that even really look like? Like, how do you figure that out? So I did some research, and I feel like I've come up with like a plan or a strategy that you and I could work on for this going year. And I feel that we could also share this with our guests.
All right. Sounds great.
And our audience. So the first thing would be is reflecting on the past year. So there's two different camps, we'll say. So the first camp would be like people like you and I, people who have already kind of started dabbling into this idea of intentions of self-care, which is typically our priority, hobbies and self-care, right? Take a look at the past year, what you worked on, what worked for you versus what didn't work for you, right? So start like, go get yourself a diary. If you ever wanted to just buy a diary, here's the time. Buy a diary, get yourself a cute pen, and then on first page, just make a list of like pros and cons, like what worked for you as far as focusing on hobby and self-care versus what didn't, and just start there, right? And that list can include like actual physical hobbies that you try to do or self-care that you try to do, or maybe even just strategies on how to implement that. Right? Like just get it all out there, brain dump. For our folks who haven't tried to do self-care and hobbies, you can also do this. For you, it will truly be more probably focused on what brought you joy in the year versus what felt like a chore in the year. Right. So I feel like kind of go with it on that mindset, and don't make yourself feel like you're not doing enough if you just got like 2 or 3 things on either side. That's a great starting point.
Definitely.
Even just 2 or 3 things on either side. So that's step one, right?
I love that. I love that idea. And do you want to break down how your last year went? Just as
so
I'd love to hear.
Well, I mean, I guess if I'm kind of reflecting, so like I put my pros and cons. Was I feel like in my pros list is accountability. That was a big one, and that's really where our podcast stemmed from, right? I feel like you and we spent, I don't know, we'll say countless numbers of brunches going, we want change, and then we would just do it again next Sunday,
right? Not do anything, right?
Because we just never had or we never had intention, right? Like we knew something was lacking for us, but we just didn't have a direction for it. We just didn't know where to start, right? And then you and I decided to kind of hold each other accountable via this podcast to create it essentially like a living diary for us, right? So I would say that was kind of the first thing that I put on my pros list was accountability. The next thing I put on my pros list was making the time for it. I feel like once I had the podcast and, we did kind of involve Pat, and kind of helping us, my husband, with like the sound and everything on that and production, I feel like that also kind of helped me and him have conversations about putting this time on the calendar. And I really do feel like you even see that with my French lessons, that having that actual reserved time just changes things. Like it makes you take, again, accountability for that time. Right. My cons I think I still struggle with doing something that's purely just for me.
Yeah.
I think I still find ways to always include, especially my daughters. I think anybody who listens to the show knows that that's like my biggest kryptonite is my daughters. Yeah. I think I do want to find something that maybe is, I don't want to say solely mine, because even that hurts me. I'm like, let my babies in. Yeah. But I do feel like I want to try to make sure that, like, when I'm trying new things, that it really is for me and bringing me joy, and not, I think Lennon could be into this too, or I think June can be into this. Yeah. I think that would probably be one of those things that I would want to work on. Yeah. And then I think also just getting past, I think sometimes I also feel like I hold back if there's like a dollar value to a hobby. Like, I think I'm still kind of nervous to dive full in, to like buy all the bells and whistles, to make a hobby like truly, I'll say easy, because I think I've learned that if you have the right tools, then
it's more enjoyable maybe.
It's more enjoyable than trying to makeshift with some tools. So I think I want to try to get over that. Like, maybe like looking at my budget and finding ways to make sure that that's a little bit more a part of the thought process. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely agree about the accountability and the making time, like setting the time. And when we started, it was a lot harder to ask for the time as an individual, but it's gotten a lot easier. And I agree, like, just having those communication with my spouse, Adam, I feel a lot better about that. So that's like been a huge change. So I agree with both those two as well. I think I'd like to add to that is I have appreciated like the community building that we've had through the podcast and through just meeting different people and connecting with people on that level, because I don't feel like I have another really outlet for that. And so I've really enjoyed that. So definitely like prioritizing continuing to build community in 2025. And then I think my other like big intention is to like have more fun and be like, we were talking about this a little bit off the camera, but being more of a yes person and just being more spontaneous and having more fun and not worrying about the details as much. So those are like I think my two of my big intentions for 2025 would be community building and like, focusing on being more spontaneous and having more fun. So
I forgot, you're right. We did talk about that Jim Carrey movie where it's like, yes, yes, man. Yeah, I agree. Like I found that over the course of us doing this podcast and trying new hobbies, I've found that where prior to this podcast, I would have said that I was somebody who hated being a newbie at something because I like being a resource for others. Like, I really enjoy that. And I think I felt in being that resource, you had to be like years of experience into something in order to be valuable to somebody when having a conversation or somebody who's wanting to learn something. But in trying all these new hobbies, I've actually found that I've become resourceful in a different way, because I feel that it's, like you said, this community that we're building and making new friends. I feel like I actually am learning how to make friends as an adult because I now have this other knowledge, although mostly beginner's knowledge in a lot of hobbies. Right. But it's a resource for folks to like to have conversations, and they can ask me questions. Oh, what did you like about that or not like about that? And I can actually say, and that's resourceful. So I'm finding a different side of resource that I never ever would have thought that I would be okay
Yeah,
with.
it gives you more things to talk about with people and be more interested and interesting, right? Like, so definitely I agree with both those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, going back to kind of talking about like reflecting on the past year, we kind of gave some ideas for like our folks who are kind of new in this. But there's something I really want to make sure that we hit for the people who have kind of been working on the self-care and hobby journey this whole time. And it's that it's okay to let go of any hobbies or self-care that you might have started. But in writing out your journal, you're like, actually, that one didn't really bring me a whole lot of joy. Right. I kind of talked about how, like, for me, like, there was also like this little bit of hesitation that came up with something that I invested a little bit of money in. And I'm like, no, I put money in that. Like, I should try to do it. I should try to stick with it. But I think what I've learned, and I think what I can share with our listeners is it's try not to focus on that piece, because what I think you should focus on, and what I felt like I've tried to focus on, is the skill set that it gave me and the experience it gave me, and what it did for me at that point in time. I feel like, some hobbies and self-care are just there to help you through maybe just like a very difficult time, or maybe, you discovered a hobby that just kind of helped you, like decompress from stress, or even meditation. Meditation is something that I feel like people can do with hobbies. I don't know if I've quite found that one yet.
But definitely.
But that one's on the horizon.
If you can get into it. Yeah, I think yes, absolutely.
So I feel like, it's all about like letting go. So like, what hobby doesn't serve you anymore? It's okay to let it go. You don't have to quit cold turkey necessarily. Like, you could do, maybe if you're just like, I just don't feel like this hobby's working for me, you can maybe do like a slow transition into something that's sort of similar, like similar types of tool sets. Maybe that can kind of help you feel a little bit better about the monetary value, and but still switching it up in a way that's finding a way to get that hobby to bring you joy again. And that would probably be what I would suggest on those areas. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that we got that point across.
I agree. Yeah. I think, and that's just like a good point in life, right? Just letting go of anything that's not serving you, any serving purpose or joy for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay, so we have our people sitting down, they've got their journals, they're writing their pros and cons depending on whatever camp you're in, right? So then now we would recommend choosing a hobby with the intention. That's our big buzzword. The word of the day is intention, right? So like, when you're picking your hobbies, pick on like, what is it that you want to feel in the coming year? Like, I think you and I talked about how like we just really want to feel like building community, energized. Like, those are the things that we're looking forward to. So then pick hobbies that would kind of foster that, right? Right. So if you're somebody who wants to, really wants to be energized with it, you're probably not going to choose like a cozy hobby that's kind of quiet in a room by yourself as your hobby. Yeah. So I would keep that in mind, right?
Definitely.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, definitely.
You could also try there was this concept of micro hobbies, which we kind of touched on about how like those who have been doing hobbies with us, how it's like this hobby only kind of popped up for a brief moment to help you through like a difficult time, or it was because it was winter and I wanted to try wax seals.
Right, for Christmas, right? For your Christmas
Did my
cards.
wax seal make it?
It did. Yeah, I got it. It was so fun to get it in the mail. I loved it.
Worried
it was awesome.
Well, first of all, my cards came off really thick. Yeah. And then putting the wax seal on it, I was really worried the mailman was going to be like, ma'am, one stamp is not enough for this.
Right. No, it came. It was great. I loved it. It was so fun to get that in the mail.
So happy about that. Yep. But then also, when choosing a new hobby, try to find a way to get excited about being a beginner. Yeah. Which was real hard for me. And I think for you too.
Yeah, definitely.
In the beginning.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah. It's hard to get over those frustrations and that perfectionism of like wanting to be really good from the get-go, and that's just not reality for most things.
Perfectionism, yes. That was the big one. Like, I would really say for anybody who's like going new into this idea of hobby and self-care, if you are a perfectionist, it's going to be kind of tough in the beginning, but it's practice. Like, I really do feel that because you and I have practiced over this year, I think that's the key is it's almost like you reteach yourself how to be a human.
Yep. No, it really is. You're rewiring your brain.
Yes.
To think differently about things and not, just, I don't know.
You're a mom machine and a wife machine and you can only do those things.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So then final thing that I think is kind of key into this whole like new year, new you with intentions is creating sustainability for it, which you and I kind of talked about was something that was one of our challenges in the very beginning is finding a way to hold yourself accountable for this time. And that could be either making sure to put that on your calendar, reserve that time and do it in a way that's sets you up for success, right? Like,
well, that's the key, the sustainability part, right? What you were saying at the beginning, because you can put it on your calendar, but if you're like scheduling yourself out for 2 hours every week and that's not feasible, then don't do that to yourself, right? Don't put that pressure on yourself, right? So you got to really think about that when it's an accountability can come in many forms. It can be telling your spouse, like, this is what I'm doing at this time of day. Or, it is a class you're taking that, you're paying for to be there. Or you have a friend that's doing it with you. So it can be, accountability can come in different forms. Some people are much more like self-accountable. Whereas we have both found that having that external accountability is really helpful.
Very big
so
for us.
I think really thinking about what's truly sustainable, especially in the beginning, right? It's blocking out half a day is probably not going to feel very good in the beginning, right? You're just starting
your
small.
Your mom guilt will hit you so hard. I'm here to tell you.
Yes. So it's really about just like micro hobbies are a great place to even start and doing stuff, just small things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I feel like even if you just put like 30 minutes in a week, I know that 30 minutes doesn't seem like you could accomplish a lot, but when you're kind of like in that beginning phases, you're going to feel all of that 30 minutes.
Definitely.
Like, especially if you're a mom, that mom guilt is going to be, kind of tough. But as you kind of get used to that 30 minutes, then you can kind of build up incrementally there, right? Like in that 30 minutes, you can walk as a hobby. You can maybe just do like a little illustration, maybe even just journal. Like there's a lot of things that you could
There's
explore.
a lot of, YouTube like videos you could do. Sometimes I'll do a 10-minute yoga video.
Do you really? Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
I think I should try yoga this year. That's one I don't think I've really gone far past on. I think we used to do as a group New Year's Day yoga.
Really?
Remember?
Oh, yes.
You used to be part of that.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a friend that kind of put that on.
That.
It was really, really fun. Or maybe it was Christmas. I feel like it was around the holidays. Yeah. And she would coordinate this whole like yoga thing every year. And I really enjoyed it. It was like my one time to yoga.
I know. I don't do it regularly. I would love to put that more into practice too. So.
Well, so we talked about that whole like accountability and putting on the schedule. And I think I would say most of our listeners are probably moms, right? And, I feel like they would probably be like, well, I've tried this before and then maybe haven't found success. Because I think even we were like, we've tried it and it wasn't working. But I don't think we really tried it, right?
Committed to it.
Right. Well, I think there's like this also like this hesitation of asking for that time because in the beginning it felt selfish.
Right.
Whereas now that like we're in it and like I've seen that my family hasn't, burned the house to the ground without me, like it doesn't feel selfish anymore. Now it feels more like, well, of course I should have that time. Everyone else does.
Right.
Why don't I?
You realize, I am actually a person and I deserve
Exactly, right?
deserve everything that everybody else has.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this when I was like trying to think about intentions for the new year. Light bulb. Everybody, kid, man, woman, is all doing that exact same thing right now. So it's like, well, why? What better time to actually sit down with your family and have this conversation? Because not only could you implement that for yourself, but maybe as like a way to help you feel better about the guilt, also implement it for your family. Like what if everybody got to reserve 30 minutes where they just did their thing? Maybe having that will kind of help a little bit with some of the mom guilt.
Definitely.
Because everybody's doing it and you get your part, right?
Yeah, right.
Or it'll even just kind of help you guys as a family hold each other accountable of keeping that time reserved so that you can explore hobbies. And it could be a way for your family to bond together. You might find hobbies that you guys want to do together, and you might find hobbies that you want to do separately.
Yeah, but then you have something to bring back to the table to share with them and talk to them about. So
new conversations for your family. Like, you know, I don't know about you guys, but before Hobbies, I really didn't have a whole lot to talk to my partner about. It was just kind of like, what's going on with the house? What's going on with the kids? What's going on with work? All things that, like, sure, I'll talk about, but they didn't like really get me excited about like a conversation, right? Whereas like now that I'm trying these hobbies, and, you know, Pat has all the hobbies, like now we can kind of like bounce ideas off each other, and we can kind of share some of the skills, and even kind of like pique interest in even trying some hobbies together. And I feel like that, like this time of year is like the perfect time to get that slate out there and really just like explore something together as a family.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's so many like avenues you can take and so many positive things that can come out of making that time.
Absolutely.
So definitely a good thing to have intention for the new year.
Yeah. And I think shifting your mindset from the idea that like, because, like, I think for me, I was somebody that, like, if anything I did had to produce something to show that I did it, right? And that was before the hobbies side. That was just me being a mom and a wife.
Right.
Like, I cleaned the house, therefore I was productive today.
Right.
Because if I didn't clean the house, I wasn't productive.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if you shift the idea of getting that, like, you have to produce something in everything you do. Maybe something that's just like you imbibing or you just creating, I guess, in a positive way, even just drawing a picture.
Yeah.
I feel like that will really help with getting folks excited for the new year and seeing what can come for them.
Yeah.
What do you think, Erin? Do you like the new year, new intentions?
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's so good to just reset and think about these things and have some time to reflect on last year and the new year coming forward. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I am very thankful. If I think about things I'm thankful for, I'm very thankful that I had you this year, Erin, because you were really, really key in like helping me go on this journey. Like just sitting there talking with you all the time, bouncing ideas off with you. I feel that in this new year, my intentions with you is to find as many best friend necklaces and bracelets, and I'm just going to just cover you in them and just mark my territory, essentially. But I just truly want you to know how grateful I am that you've been there for me to support me in this, because I really do feel like I'm starting this year as a very different Tamara, and I'm very excited for this Tamara, and I feel like this Tamara, I feel like Jim Carrey, yes, man.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I just don't feel like I would have had that had I not like had you kind of holding me accountable for that and challenging me throughout the entire time. Because I know there were times where I would slip back into like the complacent, and you were like, no. Think of it this way, Tamara.
Yep.
So I love you, man.
Oh, I love you too. So yeah. Well, 2025.
2025.
Best year yet.
Everybody, get on board with us. Help, self-care, hobbies. I promise you will not regret this journey. Like, give it a shot. Go for it. This is your new year. This is the new year.
That's
the best intentions. Only the best intentions.
Send us a message. Let us know what your intentions are for this year. We'd love to hear them.
Yes.
It helps us stay motivated. We love to connect with you on socials. So, yeah.
All right. I think we're good.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. See you next time. Thank you for listening to The Art of Hobbyness. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And for more Erin and Tam fun, be sure to follow us on all socials for behind-the-scenes footage on our journey to find Hobbyness.